Dear Mr. Donfried, dear Mr. Professor, ladies and gentlemen, participants, again, it's a great pleasure for me to be able to participate today, and I'm always very glad to come and to make my efforts and contribution when it comes to cultural diplomacy, because in essence of our job, diplomatic job, is making bridges, and culture in this regard used to be and still is a very important tool in peacemaking processes, in making friends, making resolution of crisis. So therefore, I'm here in order to give example about my country in terms of the European Union, in terms of something what Mr. Professor already mentioned, what is European Union nowadays and how to restore and make the new security European structure, especially under the current circumstances. I want to just emphasize at the very beginning that in the 90s, one of the most influential books was Francis Fukuyama, The End of History and The Last Man. Obviously, we are not facing the end of the history, but rather the end of the global order as we have known it. Most people, my colleagues and institutions who are dealing with international affairs are always having the dilemma about the similarities and differences between multipolar and multilateral order. This is quite important to understand the differences between those two important topics in order to understand what could be the resolution of certain crises worldwide. When it comes to European Union, Mr. Professor already mentioned some very crucial issues regarding EU, and I think that we are in Europe, in European Union, facing, of course, a huge transformation when it comes to the foreign and security policy, especially because European Union has started as a peace project after 1945. Peace project very much based on the common values in the European Union. Security and defense, basically they were in hands of NATO, not of the European Union in the first line. Nowadays, we are seeing that European Union and the member countries, most of them are the members of both NATO and European Union, they need to make a special effort in order to increase own stamina, security capacities, foreign policy capacities in order to make huge contribution in better contribution when it comes to transatlantic cooperation. It is not anymore enough to have only United States, maybe some other countries who are participating throughout NATO and European structure. US is and definitely will remain our strategical partner for Croatia as well, but the members of the European Union, they need to enhance their capabilities. And I want to say that European Union has to design internal foreign political and security structures and capabilities. I already mentioned EU has not been defined at that time, 70 years ago, as a security organization. Now we have to be more capable in defense, in security, and especially our hosts here, Germany, is as well as the other countries, member countries, are facing huge challenges when it comes to contribution in defense and security issues. It's a big transformation. Mr. Professor already mentioned we have never had good times. Crises are basically coming on the daily basis, and EU has always found solution in order to be efficient and to come up out of the crisis more stronger. Just one example is COVID. Until COVID crisis, we didn't have this situation worldwide. It was a unique situation. We have managed to put 27 countries together in order to make a unified policy in terms of how to fight against COVID. Nowadays, although there are a lot of differences among us, better saying some differences, we have managed to make our common policy towards Russia. When it comes to the sanction policies, it is not easy to put 27 countries together, but so far I think that we have managed and we have shown that the European Union is ready to confront the huge challenges, maybe the biggest after 1945. The challenges, as I already mentioned, is how to bridge the differences among 27 countries. It's a very sophisticated exercise in the European Union. I was dealing with foreign and security policy. The big challenge will be for the European Union member states to change or to see what are the solutions for decision-making process when it comes to foreign and security policy in the European Union. You have 27 interests. You have different standpoints between some of the countries when it comes to the current situation in Gaza, when it comes to the sanction policy regarding Russia. But again, European Union is work in progress. So I'm quite optimistic. We do not have any other solution or alternative but to be stronger, to work together, to explore the other avenues, and to restore our resilience. This is quite important to mention. NATO remains as a very important key instrument for European security, but as I already mentioned, the member countries, they need to use all of the opportunities to enhance own capabilities. Most of the countries are, as I already mentioned, members of NATO and members of the European Union, and I think that it is quite important to see similarities and to use capacities in order to not to duplicate our efforts, but rather to make synergy between those two very important organizations. I'm coming to the multilateralism. Multilateralism is facing definitely huge challenge, and multilateralism, especially United Nations nowadays, is in a way blocked by institutions who could not be reformed in the last decades. Last 2 decades, we have constantly had debate in the United Nations how to reform the United Nations. Now we are facing the situation that in the Security Council, you can practically not achieve any kind of consensus because you have to have unanimity between 5 countries who are permanent members of the Security Council, and it's quite obvious that United Nations, not only on the long run, but also immediately have to explore and find some opportunities to cooperate on this multilateral level. Sometimes it seems to me that there are some other formats of cooperation who are now replacing some regional and global international organizations. This is, for example, G7, and on the global scale, G20. Very often, it seems to me that on this level, G20, you can find some solutions and make some breakthroughs. There are some new initiatives. For example, BRICS countries, yet to be seen. What is the future of those countries? They have more integrations among themselves? We see a lot of differences between certain countries who are in BRIC. From Brazil to India, China, Russia. Frankly speaking, we see a lot of differences. And it is not going to be easy to be coherent when it comes to the future of this organization. But again, it will be important to see the future of this organization. Let me mention certain issues regarding Croatia and what is Croatian contribution and capabilities when it comes to this new security structure on this continent. Croatia is the newest member of the European Union. Croatia has became practically member of all of the Western international organizations. The only one which is still pending, we are negotiating with OECD, which will be very important to achieve for our economy. But Croatia is an example for transformation. We are the only country who faced the war in the 90s, and then 2 decades, 3 decades after, we joined the European Union, we joined NATO, we make a big transformation of our society, and we transformed our country from the war until, of course, being a very solid, in certain areas, key partner when it comes to European cooperation and wider. I'll tell you why wider. You will see, of course, that there is another multivectoral approaches when it comes to our foreign policy. Croatia could be described as a Mediterranean gateway to Central Europe. So we are combining and we are active in certain very important areas. Mediterranean, plus Western Balkans, plus Eastern Europe and Central Europe. So this is a very unique position of our country, and Mr. Professor have already mentioned the enlargement policy of the European Union. Croatia is always a very good example that if the country is ready to negotiate, to make reforms domestically, it could eventually, the country could eventually achieve concrete results, and this is the membership in the European Union. So Croatia is a good example for the countries in Western Balkans, plus the countries who have already started with negotiation process, like Moldova, like Ukraine. And our position is to share with those countries our experiences. But when it comes to peace, it is also a very important message to certain countries like Ukraine, that you can overcome situations during the wartime, during the aggression, and make transformation of the country, unified your territory on one side, but also prevail and enhance rule of law, which is quite crucial when it comes to the European Union. Rule of law is the glue for all of our countries. So Croatia is an example for countries who are willing to join European Union, who are willing to join NATO, and in the next period of time, we will definitely, in the forthcoming period of time, we will definitely support the countries who are intending to join European Union and NATO with our experience, with our capacities, with all of the knowledge we have gained during our process. Croatia is a Mediterranean country. This is quite important to mention. Namely, you see that there are certain crises, ongoing crises, like, for example, between Israel and Palestine, the situation in Gaza. Because of our geographical position, and because of our experience, we are using those tools in order to make our own contribution when it comes to peace. Namely, just one example, at the beginning of September, 2 ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Palestine, visited Croatia, and a few days after, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel. We will try to use, of course, the fact that Croatia has never been a colonial state on one hand, and Croatia has never run any aggressive war towards the other countries. So, as a member of international organizations, Croatia is ready to support certain important processes in the Middle East. And my foreign minister visited immediately after the visit of Minister of Foreign Affairs of Palestine and Israel. He visited Jordan, he visited Syria in order to offer our experience, in order to support, to see whether we can explore some new avenues when it comes to peace. So Mediterranean it has a very important role, and we are running alongside the other organization, the organization Med9. Med9 are 9 Mediterranean states in European Union who are consulting themselves and who are trying to promulgate Mediterranean policy in the best possible way. So we will be chairman of this organization and we'll run this organization, informal organization, next year. Plus, 3Cs initiative, which will be organized in Croatia as well next year. 3Cs initiative is organization, or maybe initiative, better saying initiative than organization, who are combining 3Cs: Mediterranean, Black Sea, Adria, Black Sea, plus North Sea. Combining Poland as a founders, we were founders together with Poland and with United States. It was an initiative from United States in order to see this cooperation on the axis south-north. So we will run this organization next year, and definitely one of the very important issues for Croatia when it comes to this cooperation on this axis is energy. Energy plays a very important role. Croatia has a geostrategical position as a country who have LNG on the island Krk, in order to see whether we can support and enhance diversification when it comes to energy supply in Central Europe, in Eastern Europe, and in the Western Balkans. In order to be a little bit to achieve the goals from European Union to make a distance from Russian energy, Russia gas, and Russia oil. So this is the position of our country, my country, Croatia, when it comes to energy supply. So Mediterranean plus Central Europe, and of course experience during the wartime in order to support countries who are still facing challenges. But this is not the end of Croatian policies and Croatian foreign goals. We have introduced and we are participating and supporting the idea of an initiative from Indian Prime Minister Modi, who visited Croatia a couple of months ago, and he is very much in favor of this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Croatia is in this regard playing a very important role as the country who is combining and connecting Asia and Europe. Plus, my foreign minister was in China, so we are running really a multi-vectoral foreign policy, not only being exclusively focused on European Union, but also with fully understanding that the big effort has to be done in order to make an approach towards so-called global south. I think that European countries were probably too much focused during the previous period of time only and exclusively on the cooperation within ourselves on the transatlantic axis, but we should be rather at the same time focused on cooperation with countries on the other continents. It is quite important for economy, it is quite important for security, and this is the only way how Europe as the global economical power could be also influential in foreign policy globally. So therefore we are very much supporting within the European Union signing of agreement with the other countries out of European Union. Mercosur definitely will be very important for Europe. Mercosur is the organization of South American countries. This is the way how European Union could be on the global scale competitive, and how to make a remedy for own economical problems, because as I already mentioned at the very beginning, we have to change, of course, our domestic situation within the European Union when it comes to security and defense. This would be, from my point of view, very important to mention. And maybe back to Western Balkans. Western Balkans are always priority for Croatia because of immediate borders with the Western Balkan countries. We have the longest border longest European border is Croatian border with the countries in Western Balkan. Because of migration, we want to see stability in the Western Balkans. We want to see that the rule of law prevail and that the countries in Western Balkans have European perspective. This is quite important for us, and we'll try and insist to play this role in the future and to support the countries in Western Balkans on the way to European Union by at the same time resolving their own bilateral problems, to overcome also historical burdens which are in the Western Balkans always very present, and to show, of course, transformation of Croatia as an example for the other countries. I'll stop here because I see that we have only 10 more minutes, and I would be, of course, very glad to participate in the dialogue with you, to answer your question, and to be on your disposal. Many thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now I'd like to take the opportunity to invite your questions and your comments. I would encourage you, especially those who are new to the ICD, take advantage of these moments. Half of the conference is up to you. Try to make your comments or your questions brief and concise, and that will enable as many voices as possible to be heard. And yeah, let's make the most of this, and we can continue with the other speakers as well. I see the first hand already in the back. If you could also then stand when posing your question and briefly introduce yourself. It's a way for us also to get to know each other. Please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amina Samand, and I'm from Afghanistan. My question is that how did Croatia transform so quickly from post-war recovery to becoming a stable EU and NATO member? I mean, what factors contributed to Croatia's rapid and positive transformation? Thank you. As you know, I'm from a country which is a war-torn country. So I just wanted to know that how is it possible in so much less time Croatia has faced so many big changes before coming here. I just read some history of Croatia, so I was so inspired by the rapid changes in country. Thank you so much.
Big question, maybe a brief response?
Many thanks for these comments, and I already mentioned in my speech that Croatia could be an example for transformation. Maybe because of the geopolitical position of my country, we are in the center, in the middle of Europe. On one side, maybe because of the fact that many Croats are living out of Croatia in European countries, and maybe because Croatia wanted to be in the part of European Union based on the organization of the values. Values are very important for us because we are neighboring, we are the part of Central Europe. We used to be in Central Europe throughout the centuries, on the other side, in Austro-Hungarian Empire. And maybe because we have this experience, unfortunate experience during the 90s with the war and the aggression. So peace was very important for us, because if you don't have peace, if you don't have this internal stability of the country, you cannot make any progress. My last point, because the question is really complicated and but very important one, you have to have domestically a unanimity. You have to have consensus about your future. This was quite important in Croatia 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and this kind of approach to the public is very important, to explain where are you going and to show your own people that you could be accoladed and awarded eventually with some better economy, but also economy is not everything. Values are quite important as well.
Thank you very much. Big question, concise answer. Let's continue. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Neokam and I'm from France. Ambassador, at the beginning of your speech, we're talking about the challenges that is for the European Union to make decisions by 27 at a time. You were talking about the UN not being able to function because the 5 big countries decide not to do anything. Do you believe then, as a new member of the European Union, that the European Union needs to be more how do I say this? We have to choose between 27 of ours, but since we all have different goals, then it's virtually impossible to make any big decisions. So do you believe that the European Union needs to be more forceful in the way they decide stuff? and maybe just, oh, we elect Ursula von der Leyen, we have to listen to what she says because she's elected to do this job, and national, right now there's the 19th sanctions on Russia, but like Hungary said no, even though as a member of the European Union, they're supposed to follow by what Brussels says, but they still say no. So does the European Union needs to be more forceful for you?
I think that Mr. Professor already mentioned this, and I couldn't more agree. And what he said about the structure of the European Union, the European Union itself became European Union as a peace project, the project of how to hamper and how to avoid war in Europe after 1945, among the other issues. We have always got stronger in all of the crises, from COVID, and I'm quite sure that it would be the same when it comes to Russia aggression towards Ukraine, because we have to defend ourselves. This is quite important. By supporting Ukraine, we are supporting, of course, sovereignty and the big goals of European Union. This is peace. So it would be. We have always found a solution between 27 countries. It is not easy. It's a very unique organization. The exercise in the European Union is not an easy one, but there is no other alternative from my point of view than to be unified in the European Union and make a progress based on consensus. Consensus is quite important, and how to reach consensus, you do not have always very easy answers, but dialogue is important, because eventually, based on dialogue, you can make progress. And I hope that we will make also support to Ukraine, because it is quite necessary to achieve peace in Europe by supporting them.
If I may just add what the ambassador said, the EU often is criticized, partly rightly, for lack of coherence in foreign policy and measuring double standards. And I think this is all, well deserved. Now, my only defensive point will be that the EU was never designed, as already noticed, was never designed for foreign policy. It was always an internal project. And one of the reasons that foreign policy was so difficult to unite member states is that it was one of the last bastions of member state sovereignty. They work together on the internal market, all the legislation that affects economic integration, etc. But foreign policy was one of the last things that member states still had for themselves. And for a long time, there was not even what we now have, the European External Action Service, or somebody who represents Europe abroad, and not only for political, because for trade it's the European Commission. So it was always going to be a very difficult situation. Crisis, though, especially for instance, if you look at the history of the sanctions to Russia, that was an amazingly quick reaction of the member states to unite. Also, for instance, to move away from oil imports from Russia, which is partly economic, but also very much part of foreign policy, for instance. So crisis pushes us that direction. Having said that, I think, and the ambassador also mentioned quite rightly, things like the BRICS and the G7 and G20, I think to some extent that's an expression of frustration with the UN, because why isn't all of that taking place within the UN? And if the UN doesn't adapt, it becomes a dinosaur, and it becomes irrelevant. So, the pressure to adapt, because it still reflects power relations shortly after the Second World War. And clearly that is long overdue. And if you don't want to adjust, then you become irrelevant, like a dinosaur. So the pressure is there, and a lot has been achieved, but nothing like the integration that has been achieved within the EU.
Maybe just one point, additional point when it comes to geopolitical approach in Europe especially, but also worldwide. It is quite important to see cooperation or combination of geopolicy with geoeconomy. It is quite important. The crises are always there when there is no balance between those two issues. Mr. Professor mentioned economy, of course, as a very important issue in Europe, very important issue in Germany, in all of our countries. So you have to adjust your geopolitical goals, geostrategical goals with the geoeconomical situation. I think that we are on the right way. by changing and transforming ourselves in the European Union to make this balance between those two very important issues, and to be, of course, ready to be competitive on the global scale with United States, with China, with Russia, with India. We have this capacity. We have to change ourselves in order to make a balance between our 27 countries, which is not an easy exercise, but there is no other, from my point of solution, than make a progress, make a breakthrough, and make a common solution when it comes to economical and political interests of European Union.
Excellent. Maybe a final question. Okay. Briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you. I have one question. My name is Harold. Is a third world war inevitable in Europe, given the current geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine, and the common EU defense policies that have been enacted today? Based on your answer, what are the strategic diplomatic initiatives that Croatia is taking, based on your own personal experience as a country, to diffuse the current tensions? Thank you.
Yes. Many thanks for this question, because I have prepared myself for this question. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to make this point about Croatian experience. We have managed during the war and after the war, 95, to make reunite our country by making a peaceful reintegration of the country. Namely, the eastern part of our territory was occupied by the Serbian powers and the Serbian army, Yugoslav army, based on cooperation with the United Nations, and it's supposed to be, and it used to be, basically the most successful peacekeeping and peacemaking operation of United Nations. We have managed to make it, to make unification of the Croatian territory. This is exactly what my country is offering to Ukraine. Our experience when it comes to unification of the country. This is quite important example, and we have a unique experience in this regard. So we'll do our best to offer all of our expertise to the other countries when it comes to making efforts for unification of the country. So this is, together with some other efforts from our side, something what we are offering to our Ukrainian friends, how to make again a civil society, how to make dialogue between different ethnic groups and national groups within the country. This is what Croatia can make it.
I did see a hand here. If you promise to be short, we see two hands. All right, maybe two very short we'll take together, and then that can be the final conclusion for the ambassador. That's okay. So two very short, and briefly introduce yourselves as well.
Hello, my name is Grace. I'm from the US, and I was just wanting to ask what encouragement you in your position could give us students from all over the world, potentially going into political positions as far as our career, to keep our heads up. As mentioned before, that authoritarianism is on the rise, and encouragement in the established organizations like the EU, and that they can offer to secure more democracy, and also to be, kind of a beacon of democracy in the EU. That is my question.
Another question, or just a quick response on your vital question of the vital importance. I think that it was already mentioned by me, myself, and Mr. Professor. Rule of law is quite important. We have all our constitutions. We are constitutional democracies. I think it's quite important to stick with the rule of law as the major and basic principle of our societies. Quite important. This is the best way how to find a remedy for populism, which is unfortunately, because of many issues, because of economical crisis, because of crisis regarding migration, huge challenges for European countries. So we got to stick with rule of law on one side. We have to really apply everything what is necessary based on our constitutions. And there are no easy solutions. Maybe my message for you, for younger generation, is to not listen to everything what is coming as a snap, quick solution. Especially you who are, all of you who are dealing with the foreign policy. Foreign policy is like a marathon. So make this, I would rather suggest to make this approach by making marathon and keep on having a wider view, keep on trying to avoid snap solutions, easy solutions. Never, the easy solutions are never the best solutions.
Yeah, very small question to the professor. The John Wick movie 4 starts with, if you want peace, be ready for a war. The postmodern method of dialogue is failing in front of our eyes. We have two situations for different reasons, but the situation is the same. How far the modern method of dialogue would gonna work? I think so the whole world is going back to the old methods of power and control, and the EU is already preparing for it. So my question is, if dialogue is failing, war is not the option. Where's the third alternative the world is ready to give to the younger generation? If not war, if not dialogue, where's the third alternative?
Thank you. By the way, that quote is actually, it's from the John Wick. It's a Roman senator who said that originally. It goes deep into history, and I actually happen to fully agree with that, because dialogue also is dialogue in context. The original idea of European integration is indeed as a peace project, and the economic root was what the thinking was that by making each other economically interdependent, you no longer are enemies, you're each other's clients and markets. And if you start bombing your clients and your markets, you're actually hurting directly your economy. So the idea was you make it so expensive that I'm not so naive to think that economic intertwinement can make war impossible. But you make it much more expensive than before. And in that framework, you start then talking. As a result, for instance, I mean, Sweden and Finland, who were not NATO members, are now NATO members. They were already very long time EU member states, right? So the thinking there is, okay, unite in the face of crisis, also in the face of internal crisis, like we had with Hungary and with Poland for a while now, maybe with Slovakia. The thinking here is always that these crises are not to be dealt with alone, and you have to You have to try to achieve a position of strength rather than weakness. Now, in terms of economics, Russia is actually a quite small economy. It's not very big. Their economy is struggling very much. The only way they're growing now, according to the statistics, is because of military expenditure, which doesn't add anything in terms of investment to the country. Their investment is flatlining. There's no foreign company investing in that. So for me, a lot of this is pure bluff. It's still very frightening bluff, and nothing to be underestimated. But it has consistently underestimated as well the forces or the uniting force of that crisis on member states. I already mentioned NATO, but also moving away from energy, etc. And that is costing the economy there dearly over time. So I wouldn't say that it's either war or dialogue. It's usually, I mean, somebody once said war is just a continuation of is a continuation of dialogue, the political continuation of dialogue, something. So you don't want to go there. Member states are completely averse to that because of their own history. But they also have learned, and you don't have to tell, for instance, Poland, which is actually one of the largest military powers now in Europe, other than Ukraine. You don't have to tell them anything about Russian threats, nor the Baltic states. And this is all living memory for them. So there's that dialogue as well, and they have a big influence in the rest of the EU on the member states. Member states like Croatia and Slovenia, who also have this war, I mean, they have it themselves in living memory in the 90s. All of that is still very present for a lot of very important member states. And they have big voices because they know what they're talking about. So I wouldn't be, working at the Commission, I'm paid to be optimistic. I know this, right? But then working at the Commission also made me optimistic on this because I've seen what is possible. And the EU has been always incredibly creative in finding solutions that actually work within this framework of rules. And now there's much more emphasis on the rule of law, also for the new budget proposals. If you don't follow the rule of law as a member state, you're not going to get any money from the EU. And we're talking billions here, a significant percentage of your GDP. So dialogue is always going to happen. I mean, what else are you going to do? You shut up and shoot, and then what? Now, at some stage, dialogue will have to come up again, because there is no military solution to war in the end. It has to be political and economic, which also gives the roots for reconstruction. So I tend to be more optimistic, but we can talk about this later as well.
Just very quick answers or comments from my side. For war, you have to have, or you could have only one side who provoked or triggered the war. For peace, you gotta have more sides to be included in order to find a solution. Second issue, preventive diplomacy. Maybe we can discuss today the failure of certain parties, certain states who were in the Minsk group. Minsk group was Minsk I, and Minsk II was a kind of a dialogue between European countries plus Russia and Ukraine in order to prevent this situation. This was quite important. So preventive diplomacy have unfortunately failed. And maybe last point from my side would be to have an outreach to the other continents and countries out of European Union. It is quite important to have dialogue and support for your positions with countries like India, Brazil, African countries, Asia countries. It is quite important, India, etc. Eventually, the European Union, because of this lack of common glue when it comes to foreign and security policy, couldn't be so effective. And now without having in United Nations clear position, it was not easy. But we have to make efforts in order to make outreach to the other partners out of European Union.
Thank you very much. There's many more hands I saw in the background, but out of respect for the ambassador of Burundi, who's been very patient, I think we do need to conclude. I assure you this is not the last time you'll be together with the ambassador of Croatia. He's a good friend, a good partner. I'm sure we'll have other events either at his embassy or here in the near future. But thank you all for your questions and a very livid and vivid discussion. Let's please express our sincere gratitude for His Excellency, Ambassador Gordan Bakota.